Welcome to this YouTube video where we explore the fascinating world of habits through the lens of Charles Duhigg's best-selling book, The Power of Habits. In this video, we will delve into the key concepts and insights presented in this transformative book, providing you with a comprehensive summary that will change the way you view habits and their impact on our lives. So, let's dive into the summary of this incredible book. But before we dive into the content, I kindly request a moment of your time to appreciate this video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. Your support means a lot to me. And don't forget to discover the incredible comfier full-body massage mat. Enjoy soothing shiatsu massage on your entire body and feel the tension melt away with the neck massager. Get yours today for pure bliss and comfort. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. Click the link now in the description to get yours today. Thank you so much. Duhigg introduces us to the concept of the habit loop, which consists of three key elements: the cue, the routine, and the reward. By understanding this loop, we gain valuable insights into how habits are formed and how they can be changed. Charles Duhigg, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter for the New York Times, takes us on a captivating journey into the science of habits and their profound influence on our behavior, decision-making, and success. Through real-life examples and compelling stories, Duhigg demonstrates how habits shape our lives, from our morning routines to our work habits and everything in between. He shows us that by harnessing the power of habits, we can unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. One of the most intriguing concepts discussed in the book is that of keystone habits. These are small changes or routines that have a ripple effect, leading to significant improvements in other areas of our lives. By identifying and cultivating keystone habits, we can create a positive domino effect that transforms our behavior and mindset. Duhigg delves into the neurology of habit formation, exploring how habits are ingrained in our brains and how they can be rewired through conscious effort and repetition. By understanding the science behind habits, we can take control of our behavior and make lasting changes for the better. Furthermore, Duhigg emphasizes the importance of belief and community in shaping our habits. By harnessing the power of belief in ourselves and leveraging the support of others, we can overcome obstacles, break bad habits, and achieve lasting transformation. The Power of Habits is a groundbreaking book that sheds light on the profound impact habits have on our lives and how we can use them to create positive change. Whether you're looking to improve your health, boost your productivity, or enhance your relationships, this book offers valuable insights and practical strategies to help you achieve your goals. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is an insightful exploration of how habits shape our lives and how we can harness their power to improve ourselves. The Power of Habit explains what an important role habits play in our lives, whether they're good ones, like brushing our teeth and exercising, or bad ones, like smoking. Filled with research-based findings and engaging anecdotes, The Power of Habit not only explains exactly how habits are formed, it provides easy tips for changing habits, both on an individual and an organizational level. The Power of Habit unveils the science behind habit formation and change, making it a valuable read. Key highlights include: the book uncovers the psychology and neuroscience behind our daily routines. It presents practical strategies for replacing bad habits with positive ones. Real-life examples and case studies make the content relatable and engaging. Unlock your potential by understanding and mastering your habits with the Power of Habit. Here's a sentence showcasing the greatness of a quote of this extraordinary book. Change might not be fast and it isn't always easy, but with time and effort, almost any habit can be reshaped. Charles Duhigg. The Power of Habit helps you understand why habits are at the core of everything you do, how you can change them, and what impact that will have on your life, your business, and society. You can't possibly call yourself a habit junkie and not know this book. It's the book about habits. Published in 2012 by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Charles Duhigg, this gem has spent over 120 weeks on the various New York Times bestseller lists. The book was sparked by Duhigg's fascination with the wit of a U.S. Army major in Kufa in Iraq, who nipped riots in the bud by persuading the small town's mayor to keep food vendors out of large and growing gatherings. When people couldn't fuel their anger and energy with kebabs, as they usually did, they just left. Tons of research, and 8 years later, Duhigg published the go-to book about habits. Here are your 3 must-takeaways. Habits work in 3-step loops. Cue, routine, reward. You can change your habits by substituting just one part of the loop, the routine. Willpower is the most important habit, and you can strengthen it over time with 3 things. Ready to science the heck out of your habits? Let's go. Lesson 1. Habits work in 3-step loops. Cue, routine, reward. Roughly 40% of what you do happens on autopilot. Habits are your brain's way of saving energy, so given you spend around 6 of your 16 waking hours doing things you're not aware of, it might be worth understanding what happens here. Duhigg discovered that at the root of all habits, like drinking your coffee every morning, lies a simple 3-part loop. The cue is what triggers you to do the habit, for example, sitting down at your kitchen table to have breakfast every morning at 7 a.m. The routine is the behavior you then automatically engage in, which, for drinking coffee, might be to go over to your coffee maker, turn it on, and press the large cup button. Lastly, you'll receive a reward for completing the routine, such as the rich smell of your coffee, its hearty taste, and getting to watch the steam rise from the cup as it sits on your kitchen table in the sunlight. I really love coffee. Can you tell? Note, your brain's activity only spikes twice during this loop. At the beginning, to figure out which habit to engage in, and at the end, when the link between cue and routine is reinforced. Here's a graphic from the book. Wait, reinforced? Aha! That's how habits are built, and the stronger this link gets, the harder it becomes to change them. But you can still do it. Lesson 2. You can change your habits by substituting just one part of the loop, the routine. Naturally, the more often you reinforce a habit, the more embedded in your brain it gets. In case of the coffee, you might crave it the second you sit down at your kitchen table, and when you can't have it that day because the machine broke, you'll probably get very grumpy and buy one later at work. The trick to changing a habit then is to switch the routine and leave everything else intact. Duhigg calls this the golden rule. If you're trying to get off caffeine, the tweak is incredibly simple. Switch to decaf, like my friend replacing Rick. You'll still have the entire experience from A to Z. But instead of pressing a button, you're now pouring hot water over decaf coffee powder. And voila, you won't miss caffeine for even a single day. Lesson 3. Your most important habit is willpower, and you can strengthen it over time in 3 ways. Not all habits are created equal, and Duhigg says willpower is by far one of the most important ones, as it helps us do better in all aspects of life. Having been to the moon and back in terms of willpower research, I don't want to tell you to eat right, sleep enough, and exercise regularly. My friend Colin is much better at that. Instead, here are 3 uncommon ways in which you can grow your total willpower capacity over time. Do something that requires a lot of discipline. For example, a tough wake-up regimen or strict diet will make you constantly practice delaying gratification and thus give you more willpower to exert throughout your day. Plan ahead for worst-case scenarios. Even just thinking about your boss yelling at you before it ever happens will help you not lose your cool when it does. Preserve your autonomy. Yesterday, I learned that autonomy was a major part of living a passionate life. Today, I learned that if you take it away, your willpower also goes down the drain. When you're assigned tasks by someone else which you must do, your willpower muscle tires much quicker. Focus on improving these important, big aspects of your life over minor hacks, and you'll develop great self-discipline in the long run. Duhigg has managed to combine the scientific research with his own ideas and personal experiences in such a way that the book tells many extremely compelling stories, while teaching you everything you need to know about habits. If I could have you read only one book this year, this would be it. Although Duhigg has published a new book in 2016, Smarter, Faster, Better, go with the power of habit. Those are the individuals who truly deserve to immerse themselves in this extraordinary book. People striving to form good habits like exercising regularly or kick bad ones like eating fast food. Anyone interested in how our tendency to form habits is manipulated by companies. Anyone who wants to implement new routines in their organizations. The 9-year-old who always has a cookie after lunch and might want to know why. The 28-year-old who struggles with sticking to her new diet, and anyone who has less willpower than they'd like to have. We often think our habits are byproducts of free will and personal choice. However, as Charles Duhigg reveals in The Power of Habit, habits are neurological patterns built deep within the human brain. Each habit follows a three-part neurological pattern of cue, routine, reward, which Duhigg calls the habit loop. This insightful summary exposes the hidden mechanics driving the habits permeating through our daily lives and modern culture. You'll discover how habits form and influence our unconscious behaviors and decisions, often in ways we don't realize. But perhaps more importantly, you'll find strategies for modifying habits to align with your goals and values. Duhigg suggests concentrating on 5 crucial factors to identify the cue: the surroundings, when the event occurs, the individual's emotional condition, the company present, and the action that directly preceded it. Where do you find yourself when the urge to engage in the habitual behavior strikes? What is the current time? How are you feeling at the moment? What other individuals are present? What preceded the urge? Through careful and regular observation of these elements, one can identify the specific cue that sets off the chain of routine behaviors. Formulating a strategy entails altering your customary pattern through the incorporation of a novel task aimed at interrupting the cycle of your deeply embedded routines. Formulating a strategy, often called an implementation intention, focuses on identifying the triggers and desired outcomes of a habit to modify the routine behavior. Identify a specific behavior you plan to execute following the cue, which should provide a similar reward. Duhigg exemplifies his argument by recounting a habitual practice of treating himself to a biscuit each day after lunch. He formulated a plan to have a brief, social break by initiating conversations with a coworker every day at 3:30 in the afternoon. James Clear, Atomic Habits, argues that the easiest way to implement this step is to specifically link your new cue and reward to an existing routine, for instance, your current morning routine. This way, you've already completed the hardest part of your new habit, deciding on the cue and reward, and you simply have to follow through with your intended action. Habitual practices significantly shape the outcomes and behaviors within organizations. Duhigg underscores that the complex structures of organizations are shaped by the habitual and collective actions of their members. Identifying and leveraging pivotal habits that catalyze broad organizational transformation. Duhigg presents the idea that certain pivotal behaviors, when altered, can create a cascade of changes across an organization, affecting the way individuals work, eat, engage in leisure, live their lives, manage their finances, and interact with others. Duhigg suggests that a pivotal habit can initiate a chain reaction that influences multiple facets of an individual's existence. While taking action to help a friend in need feels like a natural and selfless response, James Clear, Atomic Habits, argues that your underlying motivation to belong affects all of your behaviors, including this one. He claims that there are 3 groups of people that greatly influence how you respond to situations: the close, family and friends; the many, the general public; and the powerful, the people you perceive as successful. While Paul O'Neill was at the helm of Alcoa, he emphasized the crucial habit of ensuring worker safety, which initiated a domino effect that altered the company's entire behavioral culture. Duhigg uses the example of Paul O'Neill, who as CEO emphasized safety above all else, leading to Alcoa's transformation into a financial powerhouse, to demonstrate the significant impact that fundamental routines can have. O'Neill prioritized fostering an environment that prioritized employee safety. Paul O'Neill led a comprehensive overhaul within the company, emphasizing the prevention of injuries and establishing a system that required immediate notification and the development of plans following any accidents. The emphasis on safety fostered an environment where ongoing enhancement was integral, enhancing productivity, quality, and financial performance through better communication and responsibility. The idea that minor triumphs can culminate in substantial transformations is illustrated through the rigorous swim workouts undergone by the Olympic champion and the gradual advancement of the LGBTQ+ rights movement. Duhigg underscores the significance of foundational habits in initiating a series of small triumphs that can catalyze widespread change. Achieving minor but meaningful victories can foster an atmosphere of advancement and convince individuals or organizations of their capability to achieve more substantial successes. Bob Bowman, the coach of Michael Phelps, utilized techniques that involved mental imagery and calming exercises as essential practices that, although they were not swimming itself, set off a cascade of small successes that boosted Phelps's self-assurance and drove him to Olympic glory. The advancement of the gay rights movement gained traction by securing a series of progressive victories, such as the reclassification of specific materials in the National Library, which aided in fostering wider social transformations and greater acceptance. Training for educators has been associated with a decrease in newborn mortality rates. Duhigg proposes that foundational habits lay the groundwork that facilitates the cultivation of additional positive habits. During his tenure in public service, he allocated time to meticulously analyze data concerning the death rates of newborns. O'Neill uncovered a surprising link. Inadequate teacher preparation in remote regions was associated with diminished student achievement, which adversely affected maternal health and resulted in increased deaths among newborns. The enhancement of teacher training by the authorities established a framework that led to better nutritional education and, as a result, reduced the mortality rate among infants. The handling of a safety violation by a high-ranking employee serves as a prime example of the role fundamental routines play in strengthening a company's culture, making core values clear, streamlining complex decisions, and facilitating broad transformations. Duhigg posits that the establishment of fundamental routines is crucial in fostering robust cultures within organizations. Habits streamline our decision-making process by illuminating our core values. An upper-level manager at Alcoa lost their position due to their failure to report an incident that resulted in minor and quickly remedied sicknesses among employees. This difficult decision highlighted the company's unwavering commitment to safeguarding health and set a clear benchmark for the behavior expected of all employees. Organizational habits set implicit standards that help resolve conflicts and improve the speed with which tasks are accomplished. In his exploration, Duhigg explores how companies establish routines that reduce disagreements and promote smooth operations, concepts initially explored by economists Nelson and Winter. These tacit understandings often emerge naturally as employees maneuver through the intricacies and competitive dynamics that are typical in many organizations. The benefits of ingrained habits include the way they promote stability and shared memory within organizations, as demonstrated by the enduring execution of business strategies that are founded on regular patterns of behavior. Duhigg demonstrates that the goals of companies are much more complex than the widely held view that they are solely focused on profit maximization. Organizations consist of various individuals and departments vying for influence, recognition, and assets. Duhigg suggests that ingrained habits provide a framework to manage these complexities. They create a collective institutional memory that preserves essential procedures, even when staff members change. They also establish a foundation that encourages employees to try out new concepts without constantly requiring approval. Stability and efficiency are bolstered by routines, which in turn reduce uncertainty and allow organizations to operate seamlessly. Numerous studies prove that positive beliefs and expectations encourage you to rise above any limitations you face and focus on solutions that move you toward what you want. However, psychologists warn that unrealistic positive expectations, such as blindly believing that you'll easily overcome your habits without effort, set you up for failure because they don't prepare you to take proactive steps to counter the inevitable obstacles that you'll face. On the other hand, realistic positive expectations acknowledge that the road to change requires effort and persistence, and they encourage you to take a proactive approach towards making the changes that you want. Businesses fail to align collective habits with their overall goals. Management experts explain that many organizations fail to take control of their collective habits because they assume that what worked historically to bring them success will continue to work in the future. However, this strategy falls short because business priorities, the goals that determine what types of customers the business serves and how it intends to provide value, evolve over time, and the collective habits they rely on must adapt too. Experts argue that businesses must continually assess whether their collective habits support their overall priorities and take the necessary steps to align employee behaviors with the organization's goals. However, they warn that managers and employees tend to resist change for the same reasons that they develop habits in the first place: to save mental energy. Learning to do things differently increases the amount of effort that they need to apply to carry out their daily tasks and often creates resentment. Organizations can help smooth the transition to new collective habits by ensuring that managers and employees understand why they need to change their behaviors. Organizations often mirror war zones with their internal strife, and the implementation of standard processes acts as a mechanism to ensure the ongoing progression of tasks. Habits play a crucial role in establishing and preserving unity within organizations, as emphasized by Duhigg. These truces, he argues, often materialize as tacit agreements designed to safeguard the organization from being torn apart by internal competition. For instance, salespeople might agree on a limit for offering customer discounts to protect overall profits. Ambitious executives, vying for promotion, recognize that openly undermining a colleague could have adverse effects, potentially provoking a counterattack from their fellow workers. According to Duhigg, numerous workplace settings resemble the high-strung stalemates present in civil strife, where entrenched habits serve as the tacit accords that preserve order. The instance where a specific medical center performed operations on incorrect body parts illustrates how a situation that appears calm can be misleading. Duhigg advises that for truces to be effective, they must establish a true equilibrium of power and foster actual fairness. At Rhode Island Hospital, the customary interactions between doctors and nurses maintained a delicate balance, illustrating how scenarios that benefit one group may result in disastrous consequences. Nurses quietly compensated for physicians' errors, double-checking prescriptions and taking extra care with documentation. Nurses often experienced being disregarded and demeaned by numerous physicians. Duhigg highlights how the disparity in power disrupted the tacit understanding, leading to situations where nurses' interventions were not heeded, ultimately causing surgeries to be conducted on the wrong body parts. Crises offer leaders the chance to fortify the culture within their organizations by transforming established routines. Duhigg suggests that although crises are often perceived negatively, they can offer substantial opportunities for an organization to transform its deep-seated routines. Businesses often strive for stability, but it is usually a distinct crisis that prompts people to question unproductive routines and reevaluate the existing order of authority. He cites several cases where organizations underwent significant changes after facing critical situations, such as NASA after the Challenger disaster, the aviation industry after the Tenerife airport disaster, and the hospital in Rhode Island following a series of mistakes in surgery. In every case, critical circumstances drove leaders to implement sweeping reforms that improved communication, accountability, and safeguarding of individuals. Duhigg also notes that wise leaders often create a perception of crisis to motivate change, highlighting the example of a person who, in the wake of a devastating blaze at King's Cross Station, initiated substantial reforms in the London Underground by taking advantage of the scrutiny from public investigations and the media's keen interest. Companies thrive by identifying and capitalizing on the habitual behaviors demonstrated by consumers. Duhigg delves into the tactics businesses employ to predict and shape the buying patterns of consumers, highlighting how Target employs advanced analytics to connect with pregnant women by means of focused advertising strategies. The rise of predictive analytics has improved the capacity to foresee consumer inclinations and decisions. Duhigg explores how retail strategies have evolved from a one-size-fits-all method to personalized marketing, driven by the emergence of predictive analytics, a process that gathers vast amounts of data to anticipate the unique preferences, inclinations, and behaviors of each consumer. Psychologists warn that your brain's tendency to operate in autopilot mode when shopping may save you time, but it doesn't save you money. Retailers manipulate their environments to accommodate your habitual purchases and trick you into making impulsive and unnecessary buying decisions. Research indicates that you're more likely to make impulsive purchases when you shop without a list, walk through more aisles, feel hungry, or when your store rearranges its layout, which they deliberately do periodically. Psychologists recommend that you write a shopping list and go straight for these items to avoid falling into the trap of making impulsive purchases. Companies exploit data collection tools such as loyalty cards, surveys, credit card records, and external information to delve into the nuances of consumer purchasing patterns. Companies such as Target compile information from various channels. Every interaction with customers, whether it involves engaging in a loyalty program, utilizing discounts, completing surveys, or making purchases, creates a traceable digital record. Businesses gather data from various sources, which includes specifics about a consumer's stage in life, whether they are single or married, their earnings bracket, and their tastes in literature or political views. Duhigg explains how companies compile detailed data to construct precise consumer profiles, observing not only their purchasing patterns but also various elements of their personal lives. Statisticians play a crucial role in creating algorithms that analyze the significance of shopping patterns among consumers, which is demonstrated by Target's examination of buying behaviors in pregnant women. Companies amass a wealth of information which is thoroughly examined by data specialists like the ones working for Target, who identify key patterns and construct predictive models to foresee consumer behaviors. Duhigg describes how Poll created a forecasting model that could infer the likelihood of a customer's pregnancy through the examination of shopping behaviors, particularly when a set of 25 distinct items from Target's baby shower registry were frequently purchased in conjunction. Poll applied his analytical expertise to identify several women who were probably pregnant and to calculate their expected delivery dates, allowing the company to tailor promotions and discounts for these individuals. Marketing strategies frequently target consumer habits by tapping into specific cravings and tendencies, such as familiar melodies or the refreshing sensation associated with using toothpaste. Duhigg delves into how businesses utilize their understanding of customer habits to shape their advertising approaches. For example, radio broadcasters frequently intersperse unfamiliar tracks with established hits, leveraging a familiar pattern of recognition to assist in popularizing the new music. Manufacturers of toothpaste add ingredients that cause a tingling feeling, appealing to the natural preference of consumers for feeling refreshed. Companies need to skillfully incorporate their understanding into customer habits. Companies must be prudent in applying their insights to foresee consumer patterns. Customers might react negatively if they feel their privacy is being encroached upon or detect an underlying attempt at manipulation. This balance, he suggests, is essential for successfully molding consumer purchasing patterns. Efforts to enhance the consumption of organ meats among Americans and to foster a liking for the tune, "Hey Ya," exemplify the method of incorporating fresh habits into established ones, broadcasted over the airwaves. Duhigg demonstrates that an effective method entails presenting new habits in a way that feels familiar. Throughout the Second World War, the U.S. government effectively promoted the consumption of organ meats among its population by integrating these less common ingredients into well-liked dishes, such as meatloaf, thereby making them more appealing. DJs at radio stations were keen to feature the distinctive song, "Hey Ya." The channel cleverly blended the tune into its usual lineup, interspersing it with familiar tracks, thereby incorporating it smoothly into the set that the audience was used to, introducing new products alongside those that were previously established. To encourage customers to develop habits they might feel uneasy about in public, as demonstrated by Target's approach to connecting with pregnant women. Target faced a similar challenge when trying to promote items to women who were anticipating the birth of a child. Duhigg explains that the company was aware that providing tailored price reductions for baby products could discomfort women who had not publicly announced their pregnancies. To protect customer confidentiality, Target discreetly camouflaged its knowledge by mixing baby diaper promotions with advertisements for items such as lawnmowers and wine glasses. This strategy, according to Duhigg, proved highly successful. Crucial habits play a fundamental role in the dynamics of group movements. The author delves into how minor demonstrations can evolve into significant societal movements through collective behaviors that stem from camaraderie, a sense of belonging to a group, and social connections. In How Behavior Spreads, behavioral expert Damon Chintola explains that you're more influenced by the percentage of people that are doing something, rather than the total number. If a high percentage of people in your community support a cause, you'll naturally feel like it's the right thing to do. 3 fundamental tenets for escalating minor demonstrations into widespread movements. Duhigg illuminates the underlying mechanisms propelling social movements by employing a 3-part structure based on sociological research and historical events. He argues that understanding the societal behaviors that form the foundation of our actions is crucial for recognizing why some efforts blossom into major movements while others fail to gather momentum. The beginnings of social movements frequently stem from close circles of companions who have jointly experienced an injustice or a pivotal occurrence, exemplified by the instance when Rosa Parks' defiance sparked a widespread refusal to use Montgomery's public transit system. Duhigg suggests that movements often originate from common habits that are essential in the development of friendships. When people face unfair treatment, the solidarity and backing from their social circles often ignite the first flames of advocacy. The writer substantiates his argument by detailing the crucial role that Rosa Parks had in initiating the bus boycott in Montgomery. Rosa Parks' act of defiance against segregation laws gained particular attention due to her esteemed status and substantial community ties. The immediate circle of friends of Parks, incensed by her detention, quickly organized a protest, using their strong connections of friendship to ignite the first wave of participation. The influence of peripheral connections becomes clear when we observe the way social norms influence the intensification of protests and events during Freedom Summer, making it challenging for individuals to resist joining in. Duhigg demonstrates that the expansion of movements often hinges on the interconnected social fabrics within communities, where individuals share mutual contacts and engage in overlapping social networks. He argues that the sway of casual acquaintances prompts people to participate even when their personal drive lacks intensity. The momentum of the Montgomery bus protest grew as churches and newspapers extensively disseminated details, nurturing a shared responsibility to participate. During the hazardous time of registering voters, referred to as Freedom Summer, the individuals participating were often driven by the expected opinions of their peers and the community consequences they might encounter if they chose to withdraw from the effort. Research backs up Duhigg's claim that the choices you make about the movements you support are influenced by social habits. While you may think that your opinions about all of the issues you hear about are solely your own, social psychologists confirm that your perceptions and behaviors are heavily influenced by other people. You think a lot about other people, allow them to impact your emotions, and feel motivated to adapt your behaviors to please others. Consequently, the movements you choose to follow are an extension of this social influence. Movements secure enduring transformation when their leaders cultivate routines that embody new principles and nurture a profound commitment, demonstrated by the influence of nonviolent protests within the struggle for racial equality across America. Duhigg suggests that by embedding new habits among team members, leaders foster a sense of collective ownership and shared identity, which in turn helps the initiative sustain their momentum. Martin Luther King, Jr.'s influence molded the civil rights movement into a unified call that championed nonviolent protest and empathy. While Duhigg focuses on the endurance of movements due to participants engaging in new social habits, he doesn't mention another vital factor. Eventually, collective individual habits influence business habits, making these new habits even more visible and accessible to potential participants. For example, when animal rights activists decided to become vegetarians, stores and restaurants changed their offerings to cater to this demand. This visible change brought vegetarianism to the attention of shoppers, some of whom then adopted the cause. The black population of Montgomery came together in substantial unity, embracing these novel practices, which, according to Duhigg, cultivated a fresh sense of self, turning them from passive participants into independent pioneers. The movement expanded into other communities as individuals adopted new behaviors by watching the habitual actions of others. Investigating the moral aspects of habitual behaviors and decisions, a study into how the brain influences intentional actions. Duhigg delves into the complexities surrounding self-regulation through an analysis of instances where ingrained behavioral patterns lead to significant and occasionally illegal activities, prompting questions about responsibility and the mechanisms of making decisions. Habit loops are so deeply ingrained that they can govern our behavior without the need for conscious decision-making, even resulting in sleep terrors. The writer delves into the cerebral processes that control our routine activities, demonstrating how established routines can influence our actions without conscious decision-making on our part. Charles Duhigg uses the example of nighttime disturbances that can result in violent actions while semi-awake to demonstrate the profound impact that ingrained routines can have on behaviors we assume are fully intentional. Brian Thomas's incident, where he tragically took a life during his sleep, illustrates that profound anxieties and automatic reactions, such as choosing to face or escape a threat, can trigger ingrained habits that function outside our conscious control. Duhigg explains that, unlike ordinary dreams, sleep terrors activate the brain's most primal regions, which are connected to central pattern generators, where ingrained habits reside. Nighttime panic episodes, commonly known as sleep terrors, can trigger such ingrained habit loops that they render deliberate intervention impossible. In a tragic case of sleep terror, Brian Thomas mistakenly strangled his wife to death, believing she was an intruder. Thomas's reaction to protect his family and himself was reflexive, a result of a deeply ingrained habit of defense, since his higher thinking processes were subdued by sleep. The story of Angie Bachman underscores the critical role that the basal ganglia play in forming habits that may lead to a gambling addiction. Duhigg uses the story of Angie Bachman, a woman who gambled away nearly $1 million, to illustrate how deeply ingrained habits can overwhelm conscious decision-making. Bachman's early, informal interactions with gambling gradually evolved into a compulsive habit that was beyond her control. Duhigg cites studies by Reza Habib, a cognitive neuroscientist, showing that individuals with gambling disorders exhibit different brain reactions to near misses compared to non-problematic gamblers, which in turn prompts the former to persist in betting. The claim suggests that variations in brain biology emphasize the profound influence habitual behaviors, like gambling, exert on our capacity for rational decision-making. The ethical considerations, examining the responsibility of individuals and organizations in shaping habits. Duhigg explores the complex ethical dimensions associated with habits, the process of making choices, and the concept of accountability. He ponders the appropriate way for society to attribute accountability when harmful actions stem from deep-seated, automatic habits. In Atomic Habits, James Clear argues that more than 50% of your daily behaviors are driven by unconscious habits. Because your habits play such a significant role in your life, Clear suggests that you go beyond simple reflection to develop awareness around your unconscious behaviors and their effect on you. He recommends that you track all of the actions you take daily. Then, determine which of your habits are beneficial or harmful to your overall well-being. When do ingrained habits dictate our behavior, yet we still remain accountable for our actions? Duhigg explores the concept of accountability by juxtaposing Brian Thomas's case, who was exonerated from a murder charge due to sleepwalking, with a female individual who encountered repercussions for her financial obligations incurred from betting. The actions of both individuals were dictated by well-entrenched habits. Thomas escaped blame as his actions were carried out unconsciously. Bachman was fully aware of her actions and accountable for them, despite the significant impact of her compulsive betting patterns. Understanding the fundamental concepts that govern habit formation provides us with the necessary resources and responsibility to alter the routines that shape our lives. Duhigg's final point emphasizes the uplifting aspect of understanding the scientific process behind habit formation. Certain behaviors, like those experienced during nocturnal panic episodes, occur without our control, yet he argues that many of our daily activities, from the way we consume food to our professional responsibilities and our interactions with people, are made up of habits that we are aware of. Realizing we have the capability to alter our habits confers upon us the responsibility and the potential to implement those changes. Duhigg emphasizes the significance of cultivating a robust conviction in the possibility of transformation, which, when steadfastly adhered to, shapes our identity through consistent actions. The writer motivates individuals to leverage the substantial influence of habits, recognizing the potential for altering even the most deeply rooted patterns of behavior, and to take an active role in reshaping the habits that define our lives. It may seem that Duhigg's method doesn't work so well for habits that people compulsively engage in throughout the day, such as chain smoking or nail biting. It's difficult to track and correlate the causes of something you unconsciously engage in. But psychologists argue that, at their root, these compulsive behaviors are an attempt to relieve underlying anxieties or other negative emotions. Consequently, they argue that all of Duhigg's categories help track the impact of different situations and people on your emotional state, making it easier to disentangle the subtle cues that trigger your habit. Mindfulness helps to uncover the root cause of your habits. Mindfulness experts agree that you're often unaware of the specific cues and cravings that drive your habits. However, They argue that your emotions are the cause of your habits because they make you susceptible to cues and cravings. They explain that you're often triggered by an emotional feeling that you seek to alleviate through the use of your habit. For example, if you smoke cigarettes, you're more likely to notice your cues, for example, the smell of tobacco, and give in to your cravings when you feel uncomfortable emotions such as fear or feelings of anxiety. However, while engaging in the habit does provide temporary relief, it doesn't fix the root of the problem, the uncomfortable feeling that you're trying to overcome. To give yourself a better chance of successfully changing your habits, examine the root cause, your emotions, of the habits you seek to change before you attempt to change them. You've made the decision. No more cigarettes. Or maybe it's no more junk food. For a couple of weeks, things go swimmingly. You're proud of yourself. But then, one day, the craving suddenly overpowers you. And, before you know it, you're back to your old habits. Sound familiar? If so, you already know the power of habits. But where does the power of habits come from? As you'll see in these insights, habits go deep into the human brain and psyche and influence our lives in a myriad of ways. And while they make our lives a whole lot easier, just imagine if you had to figure out how to open a door every time you encountered one. Habits can also cause problems and even ruin lives. Luckily, by learning how habits work, you can begin to overcome their power. So let's delve into the world of habits. In these insights, you'll learn why anticipation is at the root of habit formation, what resisting marshmallows can tell us about habits, and what the latte method is. Let's continue exploring some of the main key takeaways of this remarkable book. 1. Habits are simple cue-routine reward loops that save effort. In the 1990s, a group of researchers at MIT were studying mice to learn more about how habits are formed in the brain. The mice had to find their way to a piece of chocolate that had been placed at the end of a T-shaped maze. Using special equipment, the researchers could monitor the brain activity of the mice as they sniffed their way to the chocolate. When the mice were first put in the maze, their brain activity spiked. They could smell the chocolate and they began searching for it. When the researchers repeated the experiment, however, they noticed something interesting. As the mice gradually learned where the chocolate was and memorized how to get there, go straight, then turn left, their brain activity decreased. This process of turning a sequence of actions into an automatic routine is known as chunking, and it forms the basis of all habit formation. Its evolutionary role is clear and crucial. It allows the brain to save energy and perform common tasks efficiently. Hence, even a complicated act that demands concentration at first, like finding a piece of chocolate in a maze or backing out of the driveway, eventually becomes an effortless habit. In fact, according to a 2006 paper by a researcher at Duke University, as many as 40% of the actions we perform each day are based on habit. In general, any habit can be broken down into a three-part loop. First, you sense an external cue, say your alarm clock ringing. This creates an overall spike in your brain activity as your brain decides which habit is appropriate for the situation. Next comes the routine, meaning the activity you're used to performing when faced with this particular cue. You march into the bathroom and brush your teeth with your brain virtually on autopilot. Finally, you get a reward, a feeling of success, and, in this case, a minty fresh tingling sensation in your mouth. Your overall brain activity increases again as your brain registers the successful completion of the activity and reinforces the link between the cue and the routine. Habits are incredibly resilient. In some cases, people with extensive brain damage can still adhere to their old habits. Just consider Eugene, a man with severe brain damage caused by encephalitis. When asked to point at the door leading to the kitchen from his living room, he couldn't do it. But when asked what he would do if he were hungry, he walked straight into the kitchen and took down a jar of nuts from one of the cabinets. Eugene could do this because learning and maintaining habits happens in the basal ganglia, a small neurological structure embedded deep in the brain. Even if the rest of the brain is damaged, the basal ganglia can function normally. Unfortunately, this resilience means that even if you successfully kick a bad habit like smoking, you will always be at risk of relapsing. 2. Habits stick because they create craving. Imagine this scenario. Every afternoon for the past year, You've bought and eaten a delicious, sugar-laden chocolate chip cookie from the cafeteria at your workplace. Call it a just reward for a hard day's work. Unfortunately, as a few friends have already pointed out, you've started putting on weight. So you decide to kick the habit. But how do you imagine you'll feel that first afternoon, walking past the cafeteria without indulging? Odds are you will either eat just one more cookie or you'll go home in a distinctly grumpy mood. 3. To change a habit, substitute the routine for another and believe in the change. As anyone trying to give up cigarettes will tell you, when the craving for nicotine hits, it's hard to ignore. That's why the golden rule for quitting any habit is this: don't try to resist the craving. Redirect it. In other words, you should keep the same cues and rewards, but change the routine that occurs as a result of the craving. Several studies on former smokers have shown that, by identifying the cues and rewards around their smoking habit and replacing the routine with one that has a similar reward, such as doing some push-ups, eating a piece of Nicorette, or simply relaxing for a few minutes, the chances of staying smoke-free increases significantly. 4. Change can be achieved by focusing on keystone habits and achieving small wins. When former government bureaucrat Paul O'Neill became the CEO of the ailing aluminum company Alcoa in 1987, investors were skeptical. And O'Neill didn't improve matters when, during an investor meeting in a swanky luxury hotel in Manhattan, he declared that, rather than focusing on profits and revenues, he intended to make workplace safety his #1 priority. One investor immediately called his clients and said, "The board put a crazy hippie in charge and he's going to kill the company." O'Neill tried to explain his reasoning to the lukewarm investors. No amount of talk would reduce injury rates at Alcoa, he argued. Sure, most CEOs claim to care about workplace safety. But empty words would never lead to the formation of a company-wide habit, which is what would be necessary for real change. 5. Willpower is the most important keystone habit. In the 1960s, researchers at Stanford conducted what would become a very famous study. A large group of 4-year-olds was brought, one by one, into a room. In the room, there was a table with a marshmallow on it. A researcher gave each child a choice. Either eat the marshmallow now or wait a few minutes and have 2 marshmallows instead. The researcher then left the room for 15 minutes. Only about 30% of the children managed not to devour the marshmallow in the researcher's absence. But here's the interesting part. When, years later, the researchers tracked down the study's participants, who were now adults, they found that those who had exhibited the greatest willpower and waited the full 15 minutes had ended up with the best grades in school, were more popular on average, and were less likely to have drug addictions. Willpower, it seemed, was a keystone habit that could be applied to other parts of life too. 6. Organizational habits can be dangerous, but a crisis can change them. In November of 1987, a commuter at the King's Cross station in London approached a ticket collector and said he'd just seen a piece of burning tissue by one of the building's escalators. Rather than investigating the matter or notifying the department responsible for fire safety, the ticket collector did nothing. He simply returned to his workstation, thinking it was someone else's responsibility. This was perhaps not so surprising. Responsibilities in running the London Underground were divided into several clear-cut areas, and, as a result, staff had formed an organizational habit of staying within departmental bounds. Over the decades, an intricate hierarchical system of bosses and sub-bosses, each highly protective of his authority, had emerged. The nearly 20,000 employees of the London Underground knew not to encroach on each other's terrain. 7. Companies take advantage of habits in their marketing. Picture yourself walking into your local supermarket. What's the first thing you encounter? In all likelihood, it's fresh fruits and vegetables, laid out in lush piles. If you consider this for a second, it doesn't make much sense. As fruit and veggies tend to be soft and are easily damaged by other products put in the cart, they ought to be displayed closer to the registers. But marketers figured out long ago that, if we begin our shopping by filling our carts with fresh, healthy items, we're more likely to buy unhealthier products like snacks and cookies as we continue to shop. This might seem pretty obvious, but retailers have figured out far subtler ways to influence customers' purchasing habits. For example, here's a surprising fact. Most people instinctively turn right when entering a store. That's why retailers put their most profitable products to the right of the entrance. Movements are born from strong ties, peer pressure, and new habits. In 1955, a black woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat for a white man in Montgomery, Alabama. She was arrested and charged, and the events that followed made her a civil rights icon. Interestingly, her case, though it's become the most famous, was neither unique nor the first. Many others had already been arrested for the same reason. 9. We bear the responsibility for changing our habits. One night in 2008, Brian Thomas strangled his wife to death. Distraught, he promptly turned himself in and was prosecuted for murder. His defense? He was experiencing something scientists refer to as sleep terrors. Research has shown that, unlike sleepwalking, during which people might get up from bed and start acting out impulses, when a person experiences sleep terrors, the brain effectively shuts down, leaving only the most primitive neurological regions active. In conclusion, The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg is a must-read for anyone seeking to understand the science of habits and unlock their full potential. So, grab a copy of this transformative book today and embark on a journey toward a more fulfilling and successful life. You can find the link to acquire a copy of this incredible book in the description below. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you found this book summary helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more book summaries and self-improvement tips to help you achieve your goals and lead a more fulfilling life. And share this uplifting summary with someone who may benefit from hearing them. Leave a comment down below if you've read this book or have any other recommendations for us. And also don't forget to explore our curated playlists of book summaries covering various topics. Until next time, stay